All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're kind of on an investigation. Like we're hunting for the hidden forces that are, well, fracturing our shared reality. It feels like we're living in a world where even the most basic facts are up for debate, right? So, our goal today is to piece together a map of this really confusing new territory.
The philosopher Hannah Arendt gave us this incredible metaphor for truth. She said it's the very ground we stand on. But lately, doesn't it feel like that ground is shaking? Like that shared reality we all just kind of took for granted as getting less and less stable? That feeling, that's the starting point for our entire investigation today.
Okay, so let's dive into the investigation. The first, and let's be honest, the most obvious clue is a term we hear constantly: fake news. It seems like the clear culprit for everything, but is it really the cause? Or is it something else? I mean, the symptoms are absolutely everywhere. Just look at this polling data. In May of 2021, more than half of Republicans believed the 2020 election was stolen. And in January 2022, you had 15% of American adults still unvaccinated against COVID-19. A lot of that fueled by misinformation. These are not small numbers. But this whole thing pushes us to ask a much deeper question. And this right here is the central question of our entire investigation. The common response is to just focus on the falsity, to fact check it, to label it, to take it down. But what if that's like treating a fever without ever figuring out what the infection is? What if focusing on every single lie is actually stopping us from seeing the bigger picture?
So this brings us to our second key finding. To really get to the source of the problem, we have to look past all the individual lies and start looking at the very system we use to establish what's true in the first place. This really reframes the whole issue. The argument is that the real crisis isn't just a flood of false information. No, it's something much deeper, an epistemic divide. That's a fancy way of saying we've had a fundamental collapse of trust in the very institutions that are supposed to give us a shared foundation of knowledge.
These institutions are what researchers call epistemic authorities. And think about it. It makes sense. We can't all be climate scientists and doctors and engineers, right? So modern societies delegate the super complex task of figuring things out to these expert groups. They're the ones who create the shared knowledge we need to do everything from building bridges to fighting pandemics. So when that trust breaks down, we lose our shared map of the world. We're not just arguing anymore about what to do about a problem, we can't even agree on what the problem is. And without that common ground, any kind of democratic decision-making becomes, well, almost impossible. So this leads us to a really critical question. If we're losing trust in the traditional authorities like science and academia, what's filling that void? For a while, the answer seemed to be this new, supposedly perfect authority: big data. The promise was honestly intoxicating. The idea was that big data, just collected passively from our everyday lives, was going to be the ultimate objective source of truth. It would be raw, unbiased, totally free from human error. It was supposed to be the perfect replacement for our flawed human institutions. But our investigation shows this was basically a myth. Data's never truly raw. People, humans, decide what to collect, how to categorize it, and what to ignore. And that means data is a socially created thing, not some perfect mirror of reality. And what's happened is this has created a new, really powerful set of gatekeepers, private companies who control the data, creating this massive new divide between the data rich and the data poor. All right, so our investigation is about to take a surprising inward turn. So far, we've looked at broken institutions, biased technology, but the next piece of this puzzle isn't out there. It's in here. It's in our own minds. Psychologists have identified this powerful cognitive shortcut that makes us all uniquely vulnerable in this fractured new world. It's called action bias. It's that deep-seated impulse to just do something, anything, rather than stopping to think. It feels productive, but it can be incredibly dangerous. And this experiment just illustrates the bias perfectly. Researchers gave university students a deliberately trivial and ambiguous problem. Now, even with all their training in critical thinking, not a single group stopped to ask the most important question: hey, is this problem even worth solving? Instead, every single one of them immediately jumped into designing these elaborate, complex solutions. This quote from one of the students is, "Wow, it's so revealing." He points out that our educational system itself often rewards speed and just doing stuff over deep, critical thought. In a timed exam, right, you don't get points for asking, is this a good question? You only get points for answering it, and fast. That kind of conditioning really has a lasting effect on us. So let's connect the dots we've uncovered so far. What do you get when you combine a society with super low trust in its institutions, a data world run by biased gatekeepers, and a population that's been conditioned with a cognitive bias for hasty action?
Well, you get a completely new landscape, a kind of battlefield where the old rules of shared facts and careful thinking just don't apply anymore. And in this environment, a whole new playbook for how to get ahead emerges. In the world of startups, they call this an unfair advantage. It's a resource or a capability that your competitors just can't copy or buy. Things like having insider knowledge or a massive existing network, or getting that one key endorsement. In a fractured, low-trust world, these unique advantages become way more powerful than just having the best product or the truest facts.
And, of course, technology is already evolving to master this new terrain. The next frontier is something called agentic AI. We're talking about autonomous systems that are designed not just to process information, but to actively reason, to strategize, and to execute complex plans, all to win on this new fragmented battlefield.
So, our investigation, which started with this simple clue of fake news, has led us somewhere way more profound. We haven't found a simple villain to blame. Instead, what we've done is piece together a map of our new, fractured reality.
So here are the crucial points from our map. First, the problem isn't just lies, it's a deep collapse of trust. Second, big data didn't save us, it just created new, powerful gatekeepers. Third, our own minds are biased towards quick action, which makes us easy targets. And finally, all of this has created a new world with totally new rules for success. This isn't just about information, this is about the entire operating system of our society.
The treasure we've unearthed in this whole investigation isn't a simple answer, but a clearer, more accurate map of the territory we're all trying to navigate. The map shows us the fractures, the new power centers, and the hidden biases in our own thinking. And now, armed with this map, we're left with the most important question of all.